Started with a session this afternoon. I'd like to introduce Ginger Bidell. She's from Buffalo State, and she's going to be talking about audio and video and accessibility.
All right, I am from Buffalo State, and I'm an instructional designer, and I work with faculty members to design online courses, but even help them incorporate technology, face-to-face courses, or blended courses. And another part of my job is providing workshops and just information support for making content accessible. So we also do workshops. We have actually a certificate series at Buffalo State where we do a workshop on making Microsoft Word accessible, making Microsoft PowerPoint accessible, or creating accessible presentations, accessibility of Blackboard, which is the learning management system that we use, and then accessibility of audio and video. And actually, we also have a workshop for making third-party content accessible. So when you're choosing, resources outside of Blackboard, for instance, textbooks and the software or the electronic components of textbooks, and even social media and different things like that. So just things to look for, questions to ask when you're making those selections. So today, what I'm going to be talking about, at least for this presentation, is audio and video. And actually, at Buffalo State, we do two workshops. One that focuses on locating accessible audio and video, and then a separate one on creating it, because it's a little bit different. But the first thing that I wanted to show you, and I don't know if you want to write this down, or I would give Ella this presentation. It's actually in Google Drive, so it would be easy to share it with her so that she could share it with you. But at Buffalo State, we have an accessibility website, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. It has a lot of great resources on it. I did print some handouts. I didn't know how many people there would be, and I always hate to print things, but I know some people like to have printed things. So I didn't print a lot, but I do have them. You can access them from the Buffalo State accessibility website. So I'll show you how to do that. So just wait for a few minutes, then I see some people writing. Am I saying either way? No? Okay. And then, and I actually also created a bit.ly for the handouts, which are in a Google Drive, so you can access each of them and print them if you'd like. Oh, see, that's the smart way to go. Should have thought of that. Should have recommended it.
I thought about that.
All right, I don't see anyone writing, so I'll go ahead and go to that website. So this is our instructional design website, and you can see we have several different tabs, but we're on the accessibility tab. The link here takes you to, so I was a part of the FAT2 task group on accessibility last year, and the task group created this website, which is a great resource to learn about accessibility. So the homepage, just as an introduction, the Accessibility Matters tab talks about why accessibility is important, and a little bit about some of the laws that we've learned about this morning. On this page, there are resources for learning about how to make content accessible. We did some webinars for SUNY CPD, and we recorded them. So we have basically what I'll be talking to you about. Today we have recorded, we also have making content accessible, Microsoft Word recorded, PowerPoint. We have a presentation on universal design and accessibility in online learning, so probably has some of the same things that we talked about today, but I'm sure some different things as well. And then verifying accessibility, that tab will help you make sure your course materials, text publisher content, and different technologies that you use. So if you don't know how to get started making things accessible, this website provides a lot of great information. Go back to our website, and then we have these tabs here. So if you are interested in making audio and video, or making sure that your audio and video are accessible, you can use the first tab, and then we have one for PDF for Microsoft Office, which has Microsoft Word and PowerPoint on it, and then just some specific information about images and tables, and then the student submissions talks about how to do extended time and things like that in Blackboard. So this is, where you can get a lot of information if you're in one easy place. So if you bookmark that in your browser, if you ever have, a question about accessibility, you can refer back to it. So there are 4 things basically that I'm going to talk about today. The first thing is whose responsibility is it to make things accessible. The second thing, the second thing is how to locate accessible resources. Then we'll talk a little bit about creating accessible resources, and then about some different technology tools. So who's responsible? We like to take the proactive approach, again, following up with what Whitney said earlier about the spirit of the law. So we really encourage our faculty members, our staff members to be proactive about making content accessible and not waiting until you have a student identify. Because once it's the first or second week of the course and the student identifies that they need captions or they need electronic format of text that can be accessed by a text or by a screen reader, it's difficult to hurry up and make everything accessible. And I know, like at Buffalo State, we work with their disability services office and we make it happen, but it doesn't happen immediately, and sometimes the student does have to wait to have the captions or wait to have the text available in a format that can be read by a text reader and things like that. So we encourage our faculty members when they're designing their courses and when they're creating their content to make it accessible right from the get-go. So, in a lot of cases, that eliminates the need to make specific accommodations. There, of course, will always be times when you do need to make specific accommodations for a specific student, but in a lot of cases, by including captions, including transcripts, making sure that your content is accessible by a screen reader, making sure that you can access whichever technology you're using with just the keyboard. There are some people who can't use a mouse, so they just use the keyboard to navigate. Just making sure, a few small things, you can make your content accessible to a really large percentage of the students. And in most cases, it isn't much. It is more work, but it's not a lot more work if you know how to do it and you do that from the beginning, as opposed to going back and trying to retrofit things. So, no one's expecting you, unless you do have a specific student with a disability, to go back and redo everything you've ever done. But moving forward, if you could make your content accessible, you're going to make things a lot easier for your students and a lot easier for you. So, instructors. So what you're really, is at Buffalo State, and really here too, what the instructors with the campus is responsible for is to provide resources that are closed captioned or transcribed. So video resources should be closed captioned, and audio resources should be transcribed. That doesn't mean that you have to caption everything, because you didn't create everything. But when you're choosing resources, when you're choosing videos, you want to look for resources that have closed captions. And then when you're creating resources, really you should be thinking about captioning and including the captioning process in your creation. So at Buffalo State, what we do is we use Ensemble, which is a media server. It's, I don't know, in my mind, kind of similar to YouTube. Every faculty member and staff member has an Ensemble account, and they have a media library. They can upload audio and video files to their media library. And then if they have files in there that they're using for instruction with their students, they just email me, and Ensemble has an integration with AutoSync technologies. And so I basically kind of click a button, I go into their media library, find the file that they need captioned, and basically click a button, and that sends an email to AutoSync technologies. They have someone sit and listen and watch the video, create the caption file, and then they upload it into Ensemble, and then the captions just appear in Ensemble. So once the instructor has uploaded the video into Ensemble, all they need to do is email me, and that's it. Even if they've already shared the file into Blackboard, the captions appear right in there. They don't need to do anything else. It's not free. It's kind of expensive. So for an hour of video, it's $169. That's what AutoSync charges us. If we have a script, they charge us about $60 an hour to create the caption file. We at Buffalo State use our students pay a technology fee, and we have an open PO, and that's how we're using that to pay for captioning. So kind of how we're working on for creating. So we don't expect, we are not necessarily asking, instructors to caption their videos, although some do, and I'll talk at the end about ways that you can create captions. Some ways are pretty easy. And another thing is it's important to include captions for, Whitney talked about face-to-face students too. So when you're showing a video in your campus course, really you should be going ahead and, getting the remote, if you have one, and including videos too, because sometimes there might be a student in your face-to-face course who's having a hard time hearing. Maybe they're sitting, in an area of the classroom that it makes it hard for them to hear, but they don't really want to speak up, or maybe there's outside noise that's making it difficult for students to hear. And captions, so 3Play Media published some research about captions, and there was some research done in the UK where they found out that 80% of the people who use closed captions are not hearing impaired. They use them for other reasons. They use them maybe because they're in the gym, and they're on the treadmill, and so they're reading the captions. So they might be in a bar or in a restaurant, or in an airport. They might be, I'm in bed and I want to watch TV, but my husband wants to sleep, so I can turn this down low or off and use the captions. Students who are working in computer labs, maybe they need to watch an instructional video for their course, but they forgot their headphones. So they can still watch the video. And in addition to that, having the text is helpful for students for vocabulary. So if you think about it, if I'm showing my students a video on anatomy and physiology, and there are a lot of new words in there for them, if they're able to see the words when they hear the words, it helps them to learn the vocabulary. You know how when you hear a word that you have no idea how to spell it, it's just kind of like blah, 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 like it makes no, you can't remember it because you haven't seen it. So having that extra support, again, like Whitney said, they're hearing it and they're seeing it. So they're building those pathways in two ways. It makes it easier for the students to learn it and access the information. And also English language learners. I don't know how many of you have ever learned a foreign language, but it's hard. I mean, I'm sure you can. And so being able to see it and hear it is helpful for them when they're trying to make those, translating it in their minds. So inevitably, the bottom line is that the person who creates the video or the audio is the person who's responsible for captioning it. So if you're creating it, you should make it a part of your creation process. But if you're getting it from somewhere else, the person who created it, is, because of copyright, you can't necessarily caption unless they have a Creative Commons license on it that you can, change it, modify it. You shouldn't necessarily be editing or revising someone else's content. So what you want to do is, first of all, choose content that's captioned, but if you find something that you really love and you want to use it, you can reach out to the person that created it and maybe ask for permission to have it captioned, or ask them if they would consider captioning it, just tell them what a valuable resource it is, and you'd really like to use it, but it's not ADA compliant, so you're unable to use it. So next we'll talk about locating resources. And I again, this is one of the handouts that I have. So the way we locate, or the way we help our faculty members locate accessible resources is, so one place, a common place where our faculty members get videos from would be our campus databases. I'm sure it's similar here. So our library databases, we have Films on Demand, we have Discovery Education, and we have academic videos online, our video databases. And in most cases, all of the video content and audio content in those databases is now captioned. Even a few years ago, that wasn't necessarily the case. Like, I think it's been, a work in progress that they've been working on it, but I know it's been quite a while since I found anything in there that wasn't captioned. And our process is, if a faculty member finds a video in there and it's not captioned, they let our librarian know, the librarian, contacts the company, and they will usually caption it. It takes some time, but, that's our process for that. Another really common place where people find videos is YouTube. And YouTube actually has a filter so that you can search for videos that have closed captions. So you can kind of not waste your time. You've searched, you find this perfect video, and it either has no captions or it has really, really terrible, awful auto captions that do more damage than they actually help and support the student. So you can, and I'll show you how to do it, so we'll go to YouTube. And let's just say I'm looking for the video on universal design for learning. Once you search, this filter comes up. It's not there to begin with, which I don't understand, but then you can choose that you want to search for only videos or include only videos that have subtitles or closed captioning. So then they'll come up. And then once you click on the video, there's still another step to it, because YouTube automatically generates captions for a lot of the videos that are in there. And the audio captions are from speech to text. So depending on the quality of the video and how the person talks, sometimes they're good and sometimes they're horrible. In fact, inappropriate. We've watched some where, well, like, you do not want the students to have those captions on because, yeah. So the way that you can tell is you can go to settings, and when you go to subtitles and CC, so the automatically generated captions, it will say English auto-generated, and if the video only has that means that the videos or the captions for the video are the auto-generated ones. And again, sometimes you can review the video and watch it with the captions on to see how it is. And sometimes they're for the most part accurate. When there will be trouble is if the audio quality is poor, if there's a lot of content words, or names, like if it's like it's criminal justice and you have Supreme Court cases with names and things like, that is really bad. Or if someone has an accent when they're speaking, sometimes that's really bad. So, I've seen some that are pretty good, but you definitely would want to review the video with the captions on to make sure.
If your language content is important, it's also difficult because homonyms are horrible.
Right. So if the video says English, that means that someone has done one of two things. They've either gone into the video and uploaded a caption file, or they've edited the auto-generated captions. So if this was my video, I could go into the video manager, and I'll show you how to do that when we get to the creating, and I can go ahead and go and edit these auto captions. So I can add punctuation, I can add uppercase letters, I can fix any words that are wrong. And that's really depending on again the quality of the video. Usually that's really not that hard to do. But the way you would be able to tell is if you have an option for English, that would be the one that you'd want to pick. But again, you still want to watch the video with the captions because everybody does a good job. And if I were to go in and I decide, I'd like to go ahead and fix the auto-generated captions, and maybe I just do the first minute and then I publish it, the whole rest of it, so it isn't good. So that happens. So again, no matter which option you choose, you still want to make sure that you are viewing the video, watching the captions, and making sure that the captions are good. So textbook publishers are another place where you might get video files or even audio files. So I know, from a student perspective and even working with faculty members, sometimes textbooks will come with a DVD. Sometimes textbooks will have online content. So if I'm using this textbook, I have this password and I can watch these videos online. Something that you want to, if you're choosing your textbook, something that you want to talk to the salesperson about is, are your videos captioned? Because it's, they're the creator and it's their job. And, we are by law required to provide these accommodations to students. The textbook publishers aren't necessarily. So the only way to get them to do it is to make them know that this is something that is important to us. We have to provide, accessible content to our students, and if we have the choice to provide, to choose this textbook and the supplemental resources that are not ADA compliant, or choose these that are, we're going to choose the accessible one because it makes things easier for us. Because now we can easily, provide students with, we don't have to do all the fixing. Open education resources are another place where you might find video content. For instance, I have it in other resources, but there's Khan Academy, and a lot of different HippoCompatible Hippocampus and a lot of different OER resources. And the same thing kind of as YouTube, you just want to check for that to, you know, in OER, there's a lot of really wonderful, high quality OER out there, but there's also some, you know, some people who aren't familiar with accessibility, creating content. And the good thing about OER is if they have a Creative Commons license on it, that unless it has a license that says no derivatives, which means you can't change it, you can actually make that content accessible. So if you find a video you like and you can get the file, you can go ahead and caption that. And then you can, you know, put a Creative Commons license on it and have it a captioned version. Other resources, other places that you might get video content, so maybe from CNN, NBC News, Khan Academy. Even a couple years ago when I first started working with accessibility, a lot of the Khan Academy videos were not captioned. Now they are. Most of them that I found are TED Ed. That they kind of are hit and miss. I know they do have captions for some of their videos, but some of their videos are actually on YouTube and have the auto-generated captions. So, you know, again, you just want to view and make sure that the captions are accurate.
What exactly is Khan Academy?
Khan Academy is, it started out with a guy who I think was creating videos to help, I think his niece, with some STEM courses. And so he uses this really awesome board that he writes on. So it's like a blackboard, but he's writing on it in different colors, and he kind of explains, they have them on mostly STEM. Like they don't have a lot of history or English or things like that, but science and math, they have a lot of really high quality, wonderful short tutorial videos that are really great.
From like, I think middle school all the way up through.
Yeah.
I had my daughter doing it.
Yeah,
Is it
they're,
before?
no, it's open, yeah, it's an open resource, yeah. So it's a wonderful resource. So does anyone have any questions about anything so far that I've talked about? Yeah,
It's not really a question, but do you have a handout, because I didn't get one?
I only printed, I think 10 or 15
Oh, okay.
handouts because I didn't know how many people would be here. But in the first slide,
Well, I'm getting one right now, so.
okay, so this bit.ly here,
Oh, okay.
it goes to a Google folder and all the handouts are in there and they're
Okay.
they're digital format. So,
Wait, this one right here.
yeah. I have this dilemma, like I don't want to print way too many and end up throwing, you know.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'll print some, but I won't print a ton. All right? All right, I talked about this already, so even in face-to-face courses, you really should, you know, find the remote, you know, find the menu button and go ahead and show the captions when you're showing videos face-to-face courses as well. So now we'll talk a little bit about creating resources. And there are a couple different reasons that you create resources or video resources. And we ask our faculty members to think about like the purpose, like why are they creating this video? If you're creating an instructional video that you're using, you know, in your course, whether it's face-to-face or online, like definitely you should, well, first of all, we ask them to think about, is this video, you know, because a lot of times we think that we need to create everything for our course, but sometimes we don't because someone else has already created it and it's already has captions and it's already great. So you want to think about that. So like for instance, if I was creating a tutorial video for Microsoft Word, you know, do I really need to do that? Because, you know, there are a million of them on video and a lot of them are captioned. Microsoft Office, you know, their website has great resources. So you want to think about the purpose of it. So if it's out there and it's captioned, maybe you don't need to do it. Otherwise, if it's an instructional video that you're using with your students, you definitely want to figure out how you're going to get it captioned. And then there is another kind of videos that you create called just-in-time videos. So especially for an online course, maybe I have a student or a couple students who are struggling with this one specific thing. They email me, they reach out to me, and I think, well, you know what, I can use Jing or I can use Screencast-O-Matic, and I can just record this quick video and send it to them, you know, immediately. You know, maybe so I wouldn't necessarily have time to get it captioned. So that's okay, especially if you say to the students, you know, would it be helpful if I created a video for you? You know, it wouldn't have captions, But, can you hear the audio, can you see, the screen? Would a video help you to understand this? And if they say yes, that's fine. If you then decide this is a great video, and I think I would like to use it with all my students, then you'd want to go ahead and get a caption. But the thing is, we don't want, so if you need a just-in-time video, we don't want to stop you from providing that to your students because, oh, well, it's going to take 2 weeks to get it captioned, and it's, it's too much extra stuff, so I just won't do it. You don't want to do that. It's like you want to definitely provide accessible content, but at the same time, sometimes you need to do things quick, and that's okay, especially, again, if it's just for 1 or 2 students. And honestly, even if you, find a video, or you create a video, and, no one in this group of students that you're using, you do have time constraints, no one in your group has identified themselves as having a disability, go ahead and use it, submit it to have it captioned so that it'll be captioned for the future, but don't not do something because of the time constraints. Another thing that we recommend is to create a script, and it does make one thing easier for accessibility, because for us, if we have a script file to give to AutoSync Technologies, it cuts the per hour rate by $100. But even like best practices wise, reasons to create a script is to, or at least an outline, is to keep yourself focused. So when you're creating a video, you want to make sure you're getting the whole message that you want to send, and not like, if I try to go off the cuff, I'm always forgetting things, and I'm like, oh, I wanted to say that and I forgot. So creating a script helps me to not do that. And it also kind of keeps you stay focused and on point. For me, it helps eliminate a lot of the ahs and uhs, which, if the students are, I don't know, I think it's like one thing if you are watching someone live, kind of like looks and things like that. When you're in your house watching a video or something, it seems like they stand out more. So having a script helps with that. And then another recommendation is to be conscious of the length of the video. So our attention spans aren't what they used to be, and maybe, they should be, and we should have those expectations, but the reality is that if you're putting videos in your course that are 30 minutes or 50 minutes, probably students are not going to watch them in their entirety, at least not all of your students, or they might be sitting there in front of the computer with the video on, but a lot of times you lose their attention and they kind of wander off and they start checking their email, or maybe their kids are asking them for something, or it's easy to get distracted when you're watching a long video. It happens to me. If I'm doing a webinar sitting at my desk, it happens to me all the time. I will have such good intentions to stay in it and be active in this webinar for the whole hour, but then it's like my email pops up or my phone rings, and it's hard. So creating short videos is better. They recommend, all the different resources that I've looked at for creating high quality videos, say between 4 and 6 minutes. And actually kind of goes along with what Whitney was saying, it's good to give students maybe 4 to 6 minutes and then ask them a question. Or, have them have some kind of task where they're talking about it or writing something down, or kind of giving them that time to process the information, because processing in 30 minutes or an hour's worth of information is hard, nonstop. There was something else I might, something else is that when you have short videos, so let's say I'm teaching business, and this week I'm talking about, in my lecture, if I was in face-to-face class, I would be talking today about 3 different, maybe 5 different subtopics. If I make 5 short videos as opposed to 1 long video, let's say one of those subtopics, there's a big change and I need to update it. Now I just need to update that short video instead of redoing the whole entire long video. So it really makes things a lot easier for you. And for me, I do it all the time. Again, I always have the scripts, so I do online faculty training, and sometimes I just open up my script, change what I need to change, re-record the short video, and having the script makes it so much easier for me because I don't have to get back in that mindset and try to remember everything. The script actually is a really good tool for me. So when you are creating videos, you want to take into consideration the time for processing closed captioning. On our campus, honestly, usually AutoSync has it done in a couple days, but I always tell, but they use, I can't think of the word, freelance, subcontractors. So they send it out, people just take it, and there have been times that it's taken longer. Sometimes it'll get done the same day, but it just depends on how many videos they have and how many people they have available to do the captions, because they do actually have a person listening to them. And so sometimes I always tell people to, you know, it could take a week or it could even take 2 weeks.
Ginger, 2 quick questions. I think you kind of answered the first one for me. We are fortunate enough to have an ensemble account at our campus. We have not made use of AST because the prices are expensive, although the interactions I've had with them have been highly professional. They seem like a great company. But it sounds like you are not using the emergency 24-hour turnaround, because there's 2 levels of pricing. You can have a video processed within 24 hours, but it's even more expensive.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Or you can,
I didn't even know that was possible, to be honest with you.
yeah, it's an option they offer,
Yeah.
but at $160 an hour, the 3-day minimum or
Right.
turnaround is more than adequate. But because we're not using AST because of price, and most people probably don't have access to Ensemble, is there any particular reason you wouldn't recommend people use the, we happen to also be a Google campus, very happy about that. Use the auto feature to start within YouTube and.
Yep, and that's actually, we're
But I
getting
will
there.
just shut
Yep,
and sit back.
absolutely. Yeah, and actually, something about Ensemble, and actually Ellen was the person who told me this, and then I noticed that we actually updated our Ensemble version today. And they, in addition to auto-sync technologies, they're going to have an integration with Amara, which is another captioning,
Are you self-hosted
company.
or cloud?
We are hosted by iTech.
Okay, so cloud-based, yeah. We're still hosted through Ensemble, we didn't move to iTech. And Amara, the plugin's already available for us, we haven't taken advantage of it yet.
Right, and I don't remember all the details, but I know there are different rates for Amara, and it's much, much, much cheaper than auto-sync technologies.
It is, but it's also open source, and you
Right.
can get professional capture necessarily.
Right, but isn't one of the levels?
Maybe, but then you're close to.
I was thinking that even at that high level, it was still quite a bit of savings, but it was a long time ago when I looked at it, and things may have changed. So, but that, you know, I think it's becoming a bigger and bigger deal, so there are becoming more and more providers, and, you know, probably lower the price, hopefully. So, but there are things that, if you don't have Ensemble, there are other ways that you can caption videos. So, and this is, I don't know, just a bit of information. So in addition to audios and videos, there's also web conferencing. So on our campus, we use Blackboard Collaborate, but there are lots of different, there's Adobe Connect, there's a lot of different web conferencing tools. So in order for a live Collaborate session to be accessible, you actually need a person, you know, transcribing, typing into the captions live, which probably is not really doable in most cases. But what you can do is record the session. You get it as an MP4, and then like what we do is upload that into Ensemble, request captioning to have the session with captions. So it's just something to think about when you're doing web conferencing. And then for screencast, for our instructors who are creating screencasts, well, first of all, you can use Camtasia if you have it, but it's not free. I think it's about $150, something like that.
For the
So,
PC, it's 99.
okay. So it is a great tool. You can actually do a lot more with it, probably than most people like who don't edit a lot of videos need to do, but it's a great tool. It's easy to use. You can also use Screencast-O-Matic, which is a free tool. And Screencast-O-Matic I like a lot because you get the MP4 file right off the bat. And the MP4 file is something that you could upload into YouTube or upload into Ensemble to caption. Jing, is also a free tool, very easy to use. In order to get that file, you have to log into your TextSmith account. You have to kind of dig a little bit to find the file, and then when you get the file, it's an SWF file, which sometimes you would need to get a converter to convert it to an MP4, depending on where you're uploading it.
Let me just back up a little bit.
Okay.
So what are we doing at this moment? I mean, I understand, I was up there till we got, where's the screencast, and you're saying you do it? What are we trying to do? Are we trying to take still live video, or?
So there are a couple different reasons that you want to do screencast.
Okay.
If, let's say I was teaching a technology to my students, like I was teaching them how to, use this PowerPoint or this presentation. So a screencast captures what's going on in your screen and what you're saying.
Okay.
So you could use it, like let's say I was showing someone how to use Blackboard. I could, okay, we're gonna click here, and then we're gonna go here, and then we just see my screen, hear my voice, and see what I'm doing. So that's one reason that people will do it. Another thing that I use it for is to do to capture presentations. So an easy thing to do is to go ahead and open up my PowerPoint presentation, do the present, and have it capture my presentation and my voice.
So it's our Echo 360 then, is that the
Personal
same?
capture.
Oh, okay, personal capture, okay, thank you, I just,
So if you were doing it in
Okay.
your office on your computer,
Right.
you could do Screencast-O-Matic.
I just
Jean.
wanted to do the same thing.
Right. So again, usually what you're gonna need is that MP4 file to upload it to YouTube or upload it to Camtasia, so, or to upload it to Ensemble. So that's why I prefer Screencast-O-Matic over Jing. Jing is a great tool and it's easy to use, it's just a little bit tricky to get the kind of file that you need. Yep.
Screencast-O-Matic is purely screen capture though. You cannot capture yourself or have a split screen, self and computer screen on the same.
You know what, I have an old version of it.
Okay.
And I think I can do that, but I do think they have a new version. And the paid version of Screencast-O-Matic, I think is like $19 a year or something like that. And with the paid version, I think you do have the audio and the
Okay,
video.
and you can edit it, you can edit?
I don't know about editing,
Okay,
but I know, I have heard, although I haven't had time to look into it, that the free version maybe doesn't capture the audio anymore.
okay, and when you make videos in Ensemble, is that file saved as an MP4 or is it saved as a proprietary file that can only be viewed through Ensemble?
No, you can download Ensemble files. as
Ensemble's a
MP4s.
video hosting system.
But I think
Oh.
It's not a
now,
video editing
Okay,
tool.
but I actually think now with the newest updates in Ensemble, you can capture with Ensemble.
because on
I
Echo
haven't done it yet,
360,
but
you can't save it as an MP4, I mean, you cannot save it, it's not, you don't have
So-
ownership of that unless you have Echo 360.
Right, and
Is that the case with Ensemble?
Now, Ensemble, you generally, until very recently, generally, like YouTube, it's just used for hosting videos.
Okay.
Now, you create your video in a tool like Camtasia or a live video using a camera, and you upload it to Ensemble. When you create playlists within Ensemble, you can designate whether or not that video will have a download link, so students could download it, or whether it's just an iframe encoding, or it's just a link. So you can provide a link that'll take to a very plain, just white URL with the video, so the students can view that. You can embed it like you might embed a YouTube video within a web page, so within your learning management system. Or, those are the two primary options. But then within that, you can specify whether or not the student can download it, so whether or not they need to maintain an internet connection. I will often encourage my faculty to make sure that their videos are downloadable, so students going on break, maybe they're on the beach and they wanna download them to their
Okay,
mobile
thank you.
device. That's what all the cool kids are doing anyway.
Yeah.
So I can show you.
The Camtasia, if you're not familiar with it, it's pretty awesome. The price can be prohibitive if your campus doesn't, have the licensing for it, but it's got some great sharing features. One button export to YouTube. It will, if you're a Google campus, one button export to Google Drive, to which you can just immediately share the files. A ton of exporting features so that you can share the files with, other collaborators and such. But I kind of love the tool.
So this is Ensemble. I just logged in, so I'm in my media library. It's basically when you play the video, kind of pretty much look like that. And you can also embed it into Blackboard really easily. They have an integration. And this is a video that I actually, I'm not finished with it, I was testing it, so it actually doesn't have captions yet. But you can see that these all have the CC. That's what Ensemble looks like, and when you play the video, it pretty much looks like that unless it's embedded in Blackboard, and then it shows up the same way if you embed a video from YouTube in Blackboard. It's kind of smaller, but it looks very similar to this. How can I find? Must have went from that to. Okay, so we have just a few minutes, but I wanted to show you, so again, I talked about Ensemble. And, you know, right now they're integrated with AutoSync technologies, and actually YouTube is integrated with AutoSync technologies too. I don't know how that works, but I know that they do have an integration. And then Amara is coming, which is, I think, a lower cost way to caption videos. But in YouTube, it's actually pretty easy to create caption videos. So I was just going to show you quickly how to do that. And that is one of the handouts that I have. So I'm already logged into YouTube. So to get to my video manager, I'm going to go to my channel. And then I can click, so if you've uploaded videos to YouTube, you can access all the videos that you upload through the video manager. And so I have a couple of videos in here, actually one that isn't closed captioned. So if I wanted to go in and create closed captions, I can click edit, go to subtitles and CC. And I think this is the case where I went in and like started to change them, because then I knew I was doing this presentation, so I stopped. So if I hadn't done that, the only option that would be here right now would be the English automatic, because I uploaded it last week, and in a lot of cases, YouTube just does automatically captions pretty much everything I think that they can. So if I wanted to add new ones, I would choose English if I wanted the language to be English. Add new subtitles. Okay, so I'm going to discard the ones that I did, so I can start over. So I have the choices that I can upload a file. So if I created a script, which was my best practice, if you save that Word document as a plain text file, you can upload the text file, and YouTube will sync it. And then you just have to go in, check to make sure that it's synced correctly. So it's really, if you have the script file, really easy to create a caption. So I would go ahead and upload the file, and then, there would be a button to publish it, and I could go ahead and publish it. I also could choose, so if I already have these automatically captioned, if I click on that, it gives me the ability to edit them. So if I wanted to edit these to make sure that they're good, I could just start at the beginning. So I just click play. I don't know why it's not, probably because I started doing it. Back to me. Stop. At any rate, and I don't have the video or the
objectives that are being met.
So I can go ahead and look at the videos, or the captions as they're showing, and I'm watching and listening. And if I need to make any choices, I can. And actually, you can see that these are really good. This isn't from a script. This is the auto captions. You can see, I don't see any crazy words in there. So it probably isn't 100% accurate, because sometimes, there's just wrong words in there. But, going ahead and editing these automatic captions, I think probably wouldn't take me very long at all. It's a pretty short video, it's 10 minutes. So I could, it might take me a half an hour to go ahead and sit and listen to it and go ahead and caption it. So it's pretty easy. And
Jen, one quick question. I've never done this following the best practices of actually uploading a script. Do you have any advice for the layout of your script? I mean, many of us will just write our script in paragraph format.
That's what I do.
And it
Yeah.
parses that out okay?
yes, it does.
Good.
If you have it in paragraph form, because it does the speech to text to time it to it.
Okay.
And actually, that is actually easier than Camtasia, because if you have, in Camtasia, you can actually paste your script file. So I have the script file and I can paste it into Camtasia, but then I have to do the timing. So I have to, when I'm listening, I have to click, for each line to set the timing. So actually, that is actually easier in YouTube than it is in Camtasia, and YouTube's free, so, yeah.
So if you upload a script that in the actual recording you kind of went off script a little,
You can go in and edit it.
then okay.
Yeah.
What about math language? So if you're x squared, the integral, that sort of thing.
That would be probably something that you would need to type in. If you're using the ensemble, I'm not even sure, to be honest with you, because I don't have a background in math, and I can't think specifically of math that I've worked with to see how it comes up. So it probably would be something that, well, if you had the script and uploaded it to YouTube, it probably might work out.
Like with the script, do you think it would have to be like non-symbol? So like integration, not the symbol,
What I might
summation.
do is like say it, but have symbols, well, actually, wouldn't the symbols probably be on the slide?
Yeah. So then use the word. I think that would work.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, so if you think of your students, if they weren't hearing anything, and they're only seeing, like, would seeing the symbol on the slide and then seeing it, you know, in the other form, in the captions, would they be able to understand it? Or do you think it would be better to have, I mean, the thing is, if they can't hear ever, like, what the symbol looks like I feel like they
Right.
probably would need to have the word. Yeah, so probably both would be recommended, I think. Because that way they would know how to say the symbol. Math's a scary area for me. Although I'm better than I used to be, but I used to have little math trauma. I like math, it's just, it's challenging for some people. And I think good math teachers are really, really important, because then we don't get scared off. And interestingly, all of my children are math science people. So I think that's, oh, this is something else. So I have had the pleasure to be part of an IITG team with Empire, it's between Buffalo State and Empire State College, and we're creating an accessibility MOOC. It's called Accessibility Designing and Teaching Courses for All Learners. And if you search for it, it's hosted on Canvas by Instructure, and they have a free version and they have a paid version. So their MOOCs are on the free version. So if you go ahead and search for canvas.net, you'll find Canvas. And then when you search for courses, you're going to if you just type in accessibility, I think ours is the only one that comes up. So it's called Accessibility Designing and Teaching Courses for All Learners. The first time that we're running it, we're doing it facilitated. So everyone who's involved in it will be actually facilitating the course, like in the discussions and answering questions and overseeing it. It begins on February 22nd, and it runs for 6 weeks. And we talk about why it's important. We talk about some of the laws. We have great interviews with students who have disabilities, so you can see what some of their challenges are. We also have a 2-week section on universal design for learning, where you can learn more about that. And then the last 2 weeks are like technology based. So like how do you do some of these things? We have included in the MOOC if you get a chance to see what it's like for a student to using a screen reader, like what that process looks like, what they hear, what they see. Same thing with some of the other adaptive technologies. So it can be just really eye-opening, I think. It will, after we do the facilitated session, we're also going to run it on demand. So maybe that's not a good time for you, but you are interested in it, you can still sign up and you can do the on-demand version. I'm excited about it. It's been really interesting to be part of the process. And I've learned a lot, even being a part of the process. So I highly recommend. Actually, there was another presentation where a colleague of mine was talking about. So, and it, our goal is for it to be a best practice. We're working, very diligently to make sure that we're using the principles of universal design for learning, and that everything is accessible so it's definitely, something I think, it's a lot of work, but something that you could use as an example to strive towards. So now, does anyone have questions?
Ginger, could you talk a little bit about, I'm imagining, going back to like the very beginning, one of the first things you talked about was having professors email you and say, I've uploaded this video, could you work with AST to get it? And that's so expensive. Talk to me about what the best, how would you make that scalable? If we had entire programs, let's say we have an entire online program getting ready to launch and we're talking to the professors about best practices and really, how can we afford that? What do you recommend?
I think that really would depend a lot on the people who you're working with.
Yeah.
For instance, our creative studies program, they use YouTube.
Okay,
And
yeah.
they, you know, and they create their content and they
Okay.
go in and do the captions and they make things accessible that way. So depending on the people that you will work with, that could definitely be a scalable solution if
Okay.
there's people who would be willing to do that and have the technical background to be able to do that.
Uh-huh.
I think that, you know, I think it's always kind of better for someone to caption their own video
Yeah,
because, you know, if
great.
you have that script,
Yeah,
even someone from AutoSync who's, you know, working really hard and their captions are really good, if they, and I know actually
You
because
have
I've
to
tried to
review
caption
them.
other people's
Oh, yeah.
videos and I'll replay it and replay it and replay it and I'm like, I can't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So a
well, and
script
also,
and
often the
doing it all-
AST transcripts say, you know, garbled or
Right, right.
inaudible,
Right.
or the wrong spelling or the wrong word.
right,
You
yeah,
have to review
so,
it.
yeah, so I think that would be like one way that you could go.
Okay,
The Amara captioning tool, is something new and it is crowdsourced,
Okay.
but if you got your group to be the crowd,
right,
you know,
Right.
so these are our department videos,
huh,
you know,
well, that's an interesting
like
idea,
as a group,
okay.
kind of attack this as a project. Maybe you can even have students be in
Yeah.
that, so I'm teaching and, you know, I'm going to use this video next semester for these students, you know, who wants to be a part of this project to help me caption, because they would have some of that
That's a really
content
interesting
knowledge
thought.
to help them do it. We've actually
Okay.
used student workers to caption videos, using Camtasia in our
Right.
department.
Did that work well for you?
Yeah, it did. I mean, it's time consuming.
Yeah, ultimately, it didn't end up being, when we played with that a little bit, it wasn't any less expensive because they're not professionals, and it took so much longer that it came out
Right.
for the same amount as we did.
Right, so that's definitely something that you need to think about.
You know, one of the
If you
things,
have scripts,
yeah,
you know, and it just cuts the work so much.
That's really the answer.
And the thing is, you're thinking about it, you're kind of planning what you're gonna say anyway, you know what I mean? So it's just the difference of like writing it down.
Right,
You know, or typing
yeah,
it
yeah,
out.
yeah.
We've used rev.com to send videos out, and they're $1 a minute for like 99 cents a minute. So if you have a 10-minute video, you've just spent 10
It's Rev, R-E-V.
rev.com.
Write that down.
Thank you.
How does it get captioned?
You know what, it only takes a few hours, so I think they may use a combination of
Yeah.
auto and reviewers, actual people reviewers, because
Are they accurate?
we do a lot of medical.
So that would be,
So there's a lot of terminology there, and we haven't really had any problems with that. We had more of a problem with somebody who was just listening and transcribing than we did with sending it to them.
really? Well, I've never heard of it before. But I've noticed, again, like I've been involved in accessibility for about 2.5 years. And I feel like it's like, because of the lawsuits and different things that have happened, it's becoming more, I don't know, it's on everybody's mind now. And we're all thinking about, okay, we have this big thing that we need to do, but we don't know how to do it. And so these companies are emerging, it's starting to become a big deal, so there's demand for it. So I think that's really gonna make things better, because, again, publisher content now is a lot better off than it was a couple years ago. YouTube is better than it was a couple years ago. Khan Academy, all of that, a couple years ago, almost nothing was captioned. And now, people are thinking about it. So I think it only makes sense that there's more, if there's demand, there's gonna be more providers, and hopefully it'll make things more affordable. Because it's important to do, but we don't all have, we don't have unlimited budgets, so it's definitely, a problem. So we are lucky that, on our campus, it's, they've decided that this is high priority and that, we do have an open PO. And so really any faculty member who wants to get their videos, it's that big of a deal there, and we were able to do that. I think we're really, really, really lucky to have that. And we don't take it for granted at all. But the bottom line is it's the law, and so, we don't want to be caught in a situation, where we're being sued. And I kind of feel like eventually, it's going to happen to everyone. Again, because as we all learn, because it's more of an issue on our mind, it's like I think students are kind of, students with disabilities who maybe were like, I don't know, had lower expectations before, are also like having higher expectations because it's more of an issue. So I just think it's something that we need to work towards. It's not something, accessibility is not something that we can just do, it's something that we just need to work towards.